Hi guys, Justin here, and I have an exciting new sleeping pad with me here by Summit, the Etherlite XT. Some are calling it the NeoAir Xlite killer. We're going to take a look at the specs and features of the sleeping pad while also comparing it to the NeoAir Xlite and see how it stacks up. If at any point during this video you think to yourself, wow, I really like this video, please smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Etherlite XT versus NeoAir Xlite, let's go. Welcome back. The Etherlite XT is a new addition to Summit's Ultralight lineup. It comes in a men's version and a women's version. You can get a regular sized, wide, large, insulated, uninsulated, mummy shaped, or square shaped. There's a ton of variety with this sleeping pad. I have here the size large men's insulated version, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. Let's take it out of the package here, see what comes in the box. All right, so we got the sleeping pad right here in its stuff sack. I guess everything else is inside the stuff sack. All right, so here we have a pad. So we have a repair kit, some 3M stickers. I think this is the pillow lock system that I was reading about that is available on the sleeping pad. Just a little brochure thing. All right, so we have the pad. Let's first take a look at its weight, see how it stacks up against Summit's claimed weight. We'll bust out the trusty scale here. So just the pad weighs 590 grams. So that's actually 30 grams more than what Summit claims. They claim this pad weighs 560 grams for the men's size large insulated version. That's actually a pretty significant difference. That's an entire ounce. I'm a little disappointed with Summit and their advertised specs. All right, so now the first comparison to the X-lite. Let's see how it weighs. So the X-lite weighs 430 grams. So that's a 160 gram difference between the Etherlite XT and the NeoAir Xlite. So now that we've looked at the weights, let's head to the floor and inflate these sleeping pads. The first thing we're going to do is inflate the old-fashioned way. So roll it out here. There's this really great valve. You open up the first flap and it inflates, and you open up the second flap and it's a really easy deflate. So we'll close that deflate valve there and then get going. All right, so that was 26 breaths. I'll open up the deflate valve and let this thing deflate while we compare that to the NeoAir Xlite. So we got the NeoAir Xlite here, and it doesn't have any fancy valves. It just has an old-fashioned twist valve here, which isn't the best in my opinion, but it is what it is for the NeoAir Xlite. All right, so I think that was 27. I kind of lost count, but very similar to the Etherlite XT. So I've deflated the Etherlite XT, and now we're gonna take a look at the stuff sack / pump sack that I talked about earlier. So this valve on the pump sack actually fits in perfectly into the inflate valve of the Etherlite XT. And the way to inflate it, just kind of open up that bottom bag there and then blow into this opening here. And then you can roll the air into the bag. So that was 6 bags of air and only about 6 breaths to inflate this. So that's much easier than inflating the Etherlite XT the old-fashioned way. And I think it's significantly easier than blowing up the Therm-a-rest NeoAir Xlite with the old twist valve system. In addition to the ease of inflation, another benefit of using the pump stack is that you don't get as much moisture from your breath into the sleeping pad. And that helps with preventing mold buildup. Some people have opened up their old sleeping pads and found that there's a ton of mold inside of them with the moisture coming out of your breath. So we talked about how the Etherlite XT here weighs quite a bit more than the Therm-a-rest NeoAir Xlite. I think part of the reason for that is the way that it's constructed. The Etherlite XT is made out of a 30D nylon on the top, and then on the bottom is a 40D nylon. So it has that extra denier nylon on the bottom, which will help with durability. Another factor is the insulation. So the Etherlite XT has an R value of 3.8, whereas the NeoAir Xlite has an R value of 3.2. So that's a 0.6 R value increase for the Etherlite XT. So it's quite a bit warmer, which could explain some of the increased weight. Size-wise, they're actually the exact same size. The Etherlite XT is 198 centimeters long, which is just over 6.5 feet, and 64 centimeters wide, which is just over 2 feet wide. Thickness-wise, the Etherlite XT is at an advantage as well. It's actually 10 centimeters thick. So that's 60% thicker than the 6.3 centimeters thickness for the NeoAir Xlite. So let's stack the 2 pads up and take a look at how that thickness compares. So I have both pads here stacked up on top of each other, and you can see the thickness difference. It's not as pronounced as when you're actually laying on them, but you can see that the Etherlite XT is thicker than the NeoAir Xlite. So while we have the 2 pads next to each other, let's take a look at one of the most controversial aspects of the NeoAir Xlite, the noise that it makes when you're laying on it. So I'm gonna throw the Etherlite XT away for a second and just roll around on the NeoAir Xlite, and let's see whether it has that characteristic crinkle. Yeah, it definitely is crinkly. This is a crinkly, noisy sleeping pad. I've heard that after 7 or 10 days of use, the noise does decrease a little bit, but that is a loud sleeping pad. Let's take a look at the Etherlite XT and see how it compares. All right, so here we are in the Etherlite XT. It has a bit of plasticky noise, but doesn't have that real crinkly sound. So not nearly as noisy. So I'm quite intrigued to see how comfortable it is to sleep on this pad. With that 10 centimeters thickness, I'm guessing it's going to be a very comfortable pad. Sea Summit pads are also known for their comfort. So I'm going to take this pad for a spin tonight. I'm going to sleep on it, and tomorrow I'll get back to you guys.
Alright guys, so I'm on the Etherlite XT next to my bed. Not in my bed. I guess this is why I'm single, doing things like this all the time. But so far the sleeping pad's super comfy, and we'll see how it goes over the course of the night.
So I had a great sleep on this sleeping pad last night. The Etherlite XT lives up to Sea Summit's reputation for making really comfortable sleeping pads. A big part of that is the air sprung technology that we have here. So all these little dot welds everywhere really makes for a comfortable platform compared to the baffle system that a lot of other sleeping pads use. What they did with the Etherlite XT compared to some of their old sleeping pads is that instead of having the dot welds go completely through the sleeping pad, there's actually a connection between the two dot welds so that they could make the sleeping pad thicker. What the air sprung system allows for is really good comfort throughout the entire sleeping pad. So if I'm sleeping right on the edge here, I feel just as comfortable as if I'm in the middle. With sleeping pads like the NeoAir Xlite, I would always feel like I was about to fall off, especially when I got near the edge, even with a size large. So the Etherlite XT just has that much more effective space compared to some other pads. So that 25-inch pad that the large is just feels that much bigger. As well, the head of the sleeping pad is quite large, so I'm actually able to sleep on my stomach with my arms fully on the sleeping pad, no problem. I also didn't have any problems with my arms falling off the sleeping pad over the course of the night, and I wouldn't imagine that even if I did, that I'd have problems with my arm falling asleep. The 10 centimeter thickness of this pad isn't actually as significant as you'd think. I know a lot of people have been worried about feeling like they're stacked up really high, or if their arm falls off, it's gonna fall asleep. But I wouldn't worry about it too much. Once you're on a sleeping pad, you don't feel like you're sleeping on a skyscraper. So now that we've talked about how I slept on a sleeping pad last night, we're gonna have a little bonus comparison to the Summit Ultralight Insulated pad, as well as the size large women's version of the Etherlite XT. So here we have the Ultralight Insulated pad. You can see it has the same air sprung technology, but the dot welds go all the way through, which makes this a much thinner pad compared to the Etherlite XT. This is also a size regular compared to the size large of the Etherlite XT. The R value of the Ultralight Insulated is lower as well at 3.3 compared to the 3.8 of the Etherlite XT. The Ultralight Insulated is touted as a really comfortable pad with that air sprung technology, and I'd have to agree, I sleep pretty comfortable in this pad, but at 190 pounds, I do bottom out at my shoulder or hip. So here we have the two pads stacked on top of each other. That thickness difference is very pronounced. It's also quite a bit wider. So when I move the Ultralight Insulated all the way over to that far edge, you can see we have another 10 centimeters or so of thickness on the large versus the regular version. Both pads are great if you are on the heavier side and bottom sleeping pads out, or you want something a bit warmer, then Etherlite XT. Here we have the women's size large version of the Etherlite XT. The main differences between the men's version and the women's version is that the head is a little bit more tapered than on the men's version, and it comes in at a higher R value of 4.2. And it's a little bit shorter. It's the same length as a regular men's version at just over 6 feet. So you lose about 6 inches of length with the women's version. So let's take a look with the women's Etherlite XT stacked on top of the men's and just see how that shaped difference looks. So as you can see, you do have a bit of a narrower head on the women's version compared to the men's, and it's a bit shorter. I think both pads are great. I don't actually consider either pad to be sex specific. I'm actually really debating between whether I want to keep the men's size large or the women's size large. I'll probably do another video that just kind of reveals what I chose between the men's and the women's, and I'll let you guys know how that decision making went. So I think all the sleeping pads that we looked at are great, whether it's the Etherlite XT men's or women's, the Therm-a-rest NeoAir Xlite, or the Ultralight Insulated. They all have their pros and cons. If R value and comfort are your priorities, then I think the Etherlite XT is the way to go. It's definitely the winner for comfort and has that increased R value. If you want a sleeping pad with the best weight to size ratio to R value ratio, then the NeoAir Xlite is still king. It does have that annoying crinkle, so it's a noisy sleeping pad still, even though apparently they improved it, and it's just not as comfortable for me. I'm gonna post links in the description to where you can pick these pads up online. If you have any questions about any of these sleeping pads, I've used all of them, except for the Etherlite women's, but it sleeps kind of similar. I've taken a couple naps on it. If you like this video, smash that like button, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And then if you want to get notifications on when a new video is posted, just click that little bell. Thanks for watching and sleep tight.